Good morning. This video is about how to name ionic compounds that contain a transition metal. So where we're going to start with this is that we are going to pick a transition metal. So remember that the transition metals are those that are in that center group, those center 10 columns of the periodic table. So I'm going to pick one of those, which is going to be copper, and I'm going to bond that with oxygen. So the first step, as it always is to write the symbols. So in this case, copper is Cu, and oxygen is just the letter O. Now in this case, we don't know what the charge is. So in this case, I'm going to use one of the standard charges for copper, which is going to be +1. When we look at the periodic table, we know that oxygen has a charge of -2. That's because it is in the third column from the right on the periodic table. Remember, noble gases have a charge of 0, the halogens in the next column -1, and then the oxygen family -2. So we then, to create the balanced molecular formula, we take the charges, we cross them over, not the symbols, but just the numbers, and drop them down near the bottom of each of the element symbols. Remember then that we do not write balanced molecular formulas with pluses and minuses, so it would be just Cu2O1, and then we do not write ones when we write balanced molecular formulas. So the formula would then be Cu2O. Now when we do this, we've created a balanced molecular formula. Now to go back and actually create the name once we know the formula, we have to do the 5-step crossover process backwards. So we're going to start with that same one so that you can see how this would work. If we had Cu2O, we're going to take that apart and we're going to reverse the process. So that process, remember, was that if there is no number, then we know that that number has to be a 1. So we're going to write that number in as just a placeholder. Now we're going to do the opposite of the 5-step crossover. We're going to move these numbers and we're going to put them back at the top. So copper 1 and oxygen 2. Remember that the anion is always a negative. So we took the 1 that was there and we moved it up on top here, and we took the 2 and we moved it back over on top of the oxygen. So that's how we did that. Now what we're going to do is just write the name. And remember, when we do this, we use just the element names. So we're going to start out with copper. And then we're going to leave a finger space and write the second part of the name, which in this case is oxide. Remember that we need that IDE on the end of ionic compounds. And in the middle, because this is a transition metal, we have to write the charge. We know that the charge is actually right here, and so we're going to write that as copper 1, and we write it in Roman numerals, copper 1 oxide. So this number that is in the middle here is the same as the charge.